What is up, guys? Welcome back. I hope you're having an awesome week. No, you are not crazy. Yes, things are getting wild out there, but take heart, dear friend. For you, I found a place where you can come in, maybe get warm, take a load off, and be refreshed with a little common freaking sense. My name is Chris, Green Beret, medic, father, husband.
And I'm Pastor Eric, which means that I'm a pastor. So I don't do a whole lot of other exciting things. But hey, I get to study God's word and share it with a lot of people and try to take that knowledge and extend it to you.
And we need it. Coming at you guys this week on the big idea masculinity. Can it be true or only toxic? We're going to spend some time during Who's Who and What's New, taking on the craziness of the common headlines of the day. And then we're going to wind up with keeping the main thing, talking about obedience. Just do
All
it.
right,
Just do
here
it.
we go. Here we go. We're going to do it in three, two, one.
All right, guys, starting off this week with the big idea. We're going to talk about masculinity. Now, this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I serve with a lot of masculine dudes, and to hear a
You?
lot of people that run around and just spout all day, every day, masculinity is toxic, it's evil. We need to pull down the patriarchy, destroy it. It irritates me and it pokes me. And I have three young men that I'm raising that I'm trying to turn into good men, and so it's something that's on my mind very often is like, how do I raise boys into being good young men, into being good men? And so, kind of walking the dog back a little bit further, is there such thing as a good man? Right? Because it's like that's all you hear is that masculinity is toxic, it's evil, we shouldn't have it. And I believe the opposite. I think that masculinity is good. I think it is true. I think a good man is one who provides, protects, and presides over their family, So
Agreed.
how do we communicate that? You know what I mean? So this is my question for you this week going into it. Masculinity, true masculinity versus first of all, let me start from the top. Is there such thing as true masculinity, as good masculinity? What do you think?
Absolutely. There's good masculinity. When a man steps up, when he becomes a man, when he stands on his own 2 feet, when he can have a backbone, these are things that are identified to me as being masculine. There may be people who don't, that just see that as being a human being, but I attribute them to being masculine because of what I think the opposite of it is. So I would say that when you have somebody that is being a coward, that is showing the opposite of a man who stands on his own 2 feet, that which is being a man. Somebody who can stand up for principle is being a man. Somebody who is a coward that cannot do that. So that's the opposite of masculinity. Am I kind of making it clear? I'm identifying masculinity by looking at what I think is the opposite of being a
Right,
masculine.
right. Well, it's just like how left wingers define what a woman is. They define it as the opposite of being a man. You've heard about this now, right?
No. Now I got to change my way of thinking because I don't want to be identified with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
it came out of a headline that female, like, what is a female, and a female is that which is not male. It's like, oh wow.
oh my God. No, now see, we went from character to biology. Biology is science, not something that is
Yeah, but
subjective.
no, I
Oh
agree with
man.
you. I agree with you 100%. So if you were to give me like your top three traits, then, because everybody loves lists, right? I don't know why, but lists always do well. What would you
Okay.
say like the top three traits of being masculine are, or the top three good traits that make up masculinity? What would those be?
Number one, honesty is a top trait of masculinity. Number two, I would say courage. but courage is a really, really weird thing. Because you ask people who would do something courageous, and a lot of them tell you, I did it. I was scared to death. I wouldn't call myself courageous. I did it. You know what I mean? So, courageous is a really unusual word. But anyway, I would put that in it, and then integrity would be my other word that would go along with truly being a man. Um, Anything less than having those things, and I personally would follow it up with a particular phrase that would say, if you can't do it, man up, because that's why I think of that. Cowards are the ones that turn around and run. Cowards are the ones that don't face their fears, face their dangers, face reality. You know, if you got to have a reason for checking out, I would come back to you and I would say, look, you got to check in, man up. That goes along with little things in the house, raising the kids. Kids need a dad. You walk away because you got something else to do, man up. That's being a man. I hope I'm being a little clearer than mud on this, but it's a really broad spectrum. But those three things are the characteristics that I look at that cover into all of those. And let me throw in one fourth one that really binds them all together. So you would put all of them in this skin, and that is godly.
Mm.
That's the skin that integrity, honesty, and courage go into. You put them in the skin of godliness.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And what's absolutely hilarious is that we did not compare notes before we started this, guys.
Okay.
Each week we come in, we sit down to do this, and we do it live because we like to capture the actual organic conversation as it goes on, so you can see the ideas mature in real time. Go ahead.
As if you and I were sitting down over a cup of coffee or whatever and just having this discussion right here and now. So go ahead.
Yeah, we really are, and we did not compare these notes at all.
So I'm
But
interested.
these are
Talk to me.
these are my three that I wrote down that I think comprise true masculinity. The top one was integrity. Um, which I define integrity as not just being honest, because you said honesty and integrity, but I
Right.
define
I don't either.
integrity as not just what you say, but what you do. Are you the type of person that is the same way in front of people that you are behind closed doors?
At your core.
At your core. So for me, that's integrity. I wrote commitment slash perseverance, because when I said commitment, I didn't just mean like commitment to a person, but also like commitment to an idea, commitment to a cause. Which is why I put, commitment slash perseverance. Once you're a person that puts your hand to a plow, that sets your mind to a cause, are you the type of person that's going to see that through to the end? Or are you the type of person when things get hard or it becomes inconvenient, right? Are you then going to drop what you're doing and walk away?
Yeah, you asked me top three.
Yeah.
That's in my top five.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we're doing this real time. And then,
But I'm with you.
yeah,
I'm
and
with
then for the third one, I wrote courage slash bravery. Now, the other reason that I said commitment slash perseverance and courage slash bravery is because I didn't want my Marines out there to hear courage, commitment back to back and be like, "Oh, he's just doing the Marine Corps." No, that's not what I was doing. That just you guys happen to have three good tenets that are in what you do, but courage and then slash bravery. And I'm so glad for what you said about courage earlier. Because I believe that courage is doing what needs to be done, or what will I say, facing your fears despite your fear.
your fear.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, you said earlier, it's like, well, I did the thing that I did, and I was afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear.
Mm-mm.
That would just be stupidity.
Walking where angels fear to
Yeah,
tread.
yeah, absolutely. Courage,
That boy has no idea
Courage-
what's going on round about him.
right? Courage is action in the face of fear,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
and that doesn't have to be like,
It had it had to be done. I did it.
yeah, yeah, uh,
That plays through perseverance too,
right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, those would be my top three traits of what makes what would make up masculinity when I envision, a man's man, right? And you'll notice that not anywhere in there I'm not talking about people's physical appearance, right?
Huh.
I'm not talking, right,
Oh,
because all of
yeah.
that is
Right.
superficial.
Very.
Some of the greatest men that I've ever known uh were
We're ugly.
well, if you would have known who's in my head right now when you said that, I was thinking about Dr. Wingrove Taylor when you said that.
Yeah.
And that's who I was getting ready to describe it. And you're like, ugly. And I'm like, oh, he knows. He knows. Um, but yeah, this guy was, where was he from? Was he Haitian? I can't recall.
No, no. Trinidad.
Okay. But he was a spindly, little skinny, sinewy,
And it was all of his life.
yeah, and this dude, when you would look at him, would not be the type of person that you would be like, that's a masculine man right there. I mean, the guy looked like an island bookworm. you know.
Good
And
description.
yet, definitely one of the most masculine men that I can recall from my younger days. Just when it
Has
comes to those traits that I rattled off: the integrity, commitment, and courage.
There are stories about him being in boardrooms with very dominant, forceful people, and him having in his proper English, if you remember what he sounded
I do,
like,
yeah, I do remember.
and he would stand and question them and not back down because he had a point that he was trying to get across, and it was going to come across, yet not a quiver in his voice, not raise his voice, just ask what he would do it by asking questions
Hmm.
and just piercing and probing and make people mad and not
That's how
stop.
Jesus used to.
He
That's
not
how
back.
Jesus did it a lot. He just asked
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah, and not stop and would just sit there and wait for an answer, and the whole 12 men in a boardroom, the other 11 guys silent, and the CEO turning red face because not wanting to have to answer, and he's the guy that put it to him,
Wow. Yeah.
put the thumb screws on just by asking a simple question in his proper
Yeah.
English. you know it was He's an amazing
Well, when
man.
you have the truth on your side,
It's powerful.
you know,
Very
and so
powerful.
that brings about an excellent point. Is that you don't have to be the big, burly, muscular guy, because a lot of people, when they think about being manly, because we're talking about being masculine, like that's what they're thinking about, and it's like, no, if you want to be a masculine, a true masculine force in this world, stand up for what you believe in. You know, apply your abilities, whatever they are, your strengths, because we all have different strengths. And
Hmm.
then, it's just that. Have the courage and the bravery to stand for what you believe in and not back down. Have the commitment, excuse me, and the perseverance to see a task through to the end, whatever you decide is a task worthy of your time and your effort. And then have the integrity to be the same in front of people that you are behind closed doors.
And every one of those traits empowers you,
Oh yeah.
makes you more powerful. And you're going like, I don't get it. How does it make you more powerful? When people know who you are, that you are a person of integrity, when it comes time for decision making, when it comes time when you stand, when it comes time that you have to have a confrontation, the power of public opinion will usually be with you because of your integrity, where you stand. All of that stuff ends up coming together, and it is when that's your character that gives you power. So the one thing I'm going to throw back at you then is toxic masculinity. I need a definition. What is that really?
Well, see, I I think
Because I think it's a
I
mixed
think it's
definition.
I
It's
think
one of those things that people throw around, and
right.
it's like, well, what does it really
That's a
mean?
really good point. I think toxic masculinity is exactly what we've described. It's just that lesser people hate it so much that they're going to tell you that it's a bad thing. You know what I mean? Now
Okay.
that's my personal opinion. I think the phrase like toxic masculinity has been by and large used to describe that manly man, quote unquote, that we're used to seeing in popular culture, that is big, strong, self-confident, and then walks around and usually uses the strength and the power to push down on those weaker than themselves, right? That's more or less like you remember Beauty and the Beast,
Mm-hmm.
Gaston, that's your toxically masculine individual that, it's probably the best example I can come up with, like off the top of my head, if you were to like
Well, see,
personify. And
and
even
I
then,
always
I kind of liked
assumed
Gaston, but
I always assumed toxic masculinity had more or less to do with the arrogance in masculinity towards the female. In other words, and Gaston showed that.
yeah.
Your place is at in the Disney version of Beauty and the Beast. You know, he wanted her at home with 6 or 8 kids, and she was going to do it. Now, that that is what I would call toxic masculinity,
Okay.
and I would agree with it. And it's like, if any, and of course in the Disney version there were those other girls that would be willing to have Gaston flaunt all over them, and the one that
The
he really
sleuths,
wanted,
the
uh-huh,
three blondes.
the three blondes in the pub. But then there's Belle, who doesn't pay him any attention. And of course, he wants. That's the thing. He wants what he can't have.
He was a
You
hunter.
know. Yeah, ooh, and of course that all of that to me does play into toxic, what I would call toxic masculinity. However, and I will say this: toxic masculinity, if you're going to define it truly, is not going to be a man. That's not a man's man. That's he may have some muscles and he may have X and Y chromosomes, but when it comes to having those things that we think make a man, the integrity, the courage, and so forth, no. I mean, even in fact, wow, you picked out a great cartoon for an example, the difference between being a man, the beast, for which he was one, when he finally acted and became a
When
man.
he did, because I was
he
because because
that's
that's
the
the
whole reason
whole
why this spell.
right. That's the whole synthesis of his
he
character.
wasn't
Right.
he wasn't a man. He had nothing. He wasn't caring. He wasn't the rose, the whole point of why it was given to him. He didn't care for those that who were less. That's part of being manly. He didn't have that within him to be able to do. Gaston couldn't love either. And but Gaston was so enraged, no integrity, no real courage. In a sense, Gaston was a coward. He did a sneak attack in order to try to destroy him and kill him at the very end in the Disney version. And yeah, oh man, that
You
turns
know
out to
who the
be
real villain of that film is?
LeFou.
Belle. If she would have just did what her father told her to do and went home, none of
Wouldn't
that
have
would have
been
happened.
a problem.
There wouldn't have been any problems.
Good morning,
Yeah.
Belle.
Anyway, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think those
Yeah,
are
you
all
really
I think
picked out
those
a
are
good
all really good
example.
points. The only thing that I'm gonna make the only point that I'm gonna make here on the end, because I know somebody's gonna say it, is be like, well, females can have all those traits too. You're talking about integrity, commitment, and courage. Yes, females can have those traits. I would argue that there is a responsibility that men have to put these traits front and center. Do you see where I'm going with this? There's a certain
I see where you're going, but I'm sorry that
responsibility.
you had to think of it. We weren't talking about females. Why did you bring them in at all?
Because they're going to cackle and they're going to get angry.
Oh my goodness, you
So I'm shutting down the argument before it starts.
yeah. Oh man. Um pick a little, talk a little, pick a
There it
little, talk a
is.
little, cheap,
That's
cheap,
all I'm
cheap, talk a
saying.
lot, pick a little more.
Yes, girls. You can, it's important for you to have these traits too, but there's a responsibility that men have to stand up to lead,
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah.
It's your job to lead,
Yeah.
right? And
Lead
one
in
of
your
the
home, lead at work.
in your
That's your job.
towns,
Yep.
at your school boards, right?
Yep.
I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our country right now is that we have a bunch of men that aren't being men.
Boys.
A bunch
Boys.
of boys that aren't
We have
being
a bunch
men.
of boys.
Yeah.
Mm.
So anyway, masculinity. There is a such thing as true masculinity, and it is the job of men to protect, provide, and preside over their families, over their communities. And
Yeah.
I think that
Absolutely.
it's time that we start doing that.
Amen, brother.